Good morning, everyone, and happy Sunday, and welcome to my Soulful Conversation. I'm Reverend Charlotte McGinnis, and as always, I really appreciate that you join me each week and take the time to be inspired and join our virtual celebration of all that is good. So here I am, Sunday morning, and always contemplating what's going on. I do keep a close eye on the news and world events and all sorts of things. So when I came up with my title today, or my topic, something to ponder or things to ponder, I think you'll understand as I go on a little bit later in my talk. But before we go there, I want to just invite you all to share this if you feel so called to do so. You can share it on your Facebook page or via Zoom, or you can go to my YouTube channel, or you can actually even go to my website to watch all these things live. But if you want to share it, I'd really appreciate it. And also just want to thank everybody who contributes so generously to this ministry to offset some of the costs that come up each month. And hey, it's great. I'm grateful. Thank you all. Everything is in divine order, and I know it always will be. So I want to remind you guys that tomorrow night is our book study. We are still, Reverend Peg and I are still on this book, The Mastery of Self, and it's a terrific book by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. And we're on chapter 5. We're kind of getting through this one kind of slow because we've had some hiccups or interruptions the past couple of weeks, but it is powerful and great wisdom, truly a life-changing book and teachings. And tomorrow we're on chapter 5, which is spotting the triggers and mastering the trap. So I think that it would be helpful to anybody. You know, we all have that tendency to be triggered on occasion by this or that. And how can we see that coming, and how can we maybe manage it a little better? So you're always invited to join us. It would, of course, be helpful if you read the book. You can download it on Kindle. That's what I've done. Plus, I have the actual book. Or you can purchase the book, or you can just show up because we have a lesson plan, and you'll certainly get the idea. So if you're interested, that's on my website, charlottemcginnis.com. You can go there to see actually all the upcoming events, including every which one that I'm going to mention. I'm very excited continuing forward with the heart-to-heart soulful conversations on Wednesday. They've all been filled with just great people who are doing great work. And, you know, we're all different, but we're all spreading our sunshine in the way that we're called to do so. And last week, if you missed it, Brian Kirsch, he spoke about his garden ministry, actually the farms of ADL, and how he uses food to provide for his ministry. And it's becoming a really big project, and he's doing great work. So you could always go back and watch all the past ones. But this week, I'm excited to say that a longtime friend, a great teacher, author, she's an astrologer, really a wise woman. Reverend Shelley Entine is going to talk to us about a lot of things. And I think astrologically, we can feel, well, guess what? We're in retrograde again. And I think some of us who are sensitive feel these energies more than maybe others do. And we'll find out. I'll be able to ask her questions, why and what's this about? And I'm really excited. So that's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Again, go to my website. You can find out all the information that you need to join us on Friday or Wednesdays at 5. And of course, Fridays, Course in Miracles, 11 a.m. And the prayer ministry, if you have any prayers to request or submit for yourself or loved ones, feel free to do that all through my website. And I want to say that next week, I probably will make a short Sunday talk. And then at noon, I, along with my friends, that we've started this Ascension 22 process back last January 1st. And this is our third segment where we're focusing on bringing Ascension consciousness into the mind. And it's a multimedia experience. We practice different aspects of meditation, possibly. There's a message, there's music, there's experiential, there's connection. It's a great opportunity. And it's about 2 hours long, starting at noon Eastern time next Sunday. Love for you to join us. You do need to register again on my website. You can find all that under events. It's a love offering, so you can come in for $1 or whatever you want, but we just love to have you there. So that's a lot. As you can see, it's a busy week, and I'll just put a shout out. It's also my birthday this week. So yeehaw, it's all part of the celebration of life, right? And actually sort of tied into what I'm talking about today, not necessarily my birthday, but more the ebb and flow of just day-to-day living, being in a body here on planet Earth and what comes with that, this classroom. And just want to give a shout out to my hometown, Huntington, West Virginia. I think they're all probably still dancing in the streets. The football team, the Marshall Thundering Herd, I went there for 1.5 years, but certainly it lives in my heart forever for many reasons. I know many of you all are familiar with the movie We Are Marshall, based on a true story of a tragic plane crash that killed the football team back in 1970, along with the supporters and boosters in the community. And that definitely had an impact on the city that was really used the most tragic of conditions and circumstances to rise from the ashes, as they like to say. And they've done a beautiful job. Well, yesterday, they went to Notre Dame to play a football game. They were the underdogs. Notre Dame is ranked 8th in the U.S. Marshall had no ranking, and guess who won? The Thundering Herd prevailed against Notre Dame. Huge victory, and I know everyone in Huntington and beyond. I've gotten some notes from people who are like, right on, it's awesome, and it really is, and at so many levels. So yay, Marshall. Go all the way this year. You all are amazing. And so there you go. There's an upside to the week. Another upside yesterday was I had the pleasure of attending an ordination of a new Alliance of Divine Love minister. And Lisa Payne is a woman from Asheville who was mentored by Linda DeFelice, a reverend from Florida who came up, stayed with us Friday night, and then we got to go in and experience this ordination. It was outside in the rain, but there was a nice shelter, so it was actually perfect and beautiful. And we're just blessed to have Lisa in our ministry. Linda DeFelice did a great job. It was just a heartfelt experience, and just great to see people who make this commitment to live from the greatest degree of love. And I'm actually going to bring in a little bit about what I spoke to Lisa about yesterday, part of her ministry and what she's passionate about. That's in a few moments to come. So as you can tell, it's been a really good week, busy week, interesting week, as I'm sure you all have had. And with the highs come sometimes the lows. And it's all about how we choose to be in the world, how we choose to interact. It's not really what's happening, it's how we choose to respond to it. And I know that sounds pretty simple, and it is simple, but how do we use these tools to navigate through this illusion of insanity and good, and go through this with the greatest level of peace? And to me, it's our vocation. It's our job to really stay plugged into source, not allow ourselves to stray away from the light and go into the fear or the darkness. It's a training. I love what the Course in Miracles says. It's a course in mind training us not to engage with the fear, but rather the love. and to recognize when we, as I said earlier, chapter 5 is recognizing the triggers and how to dismantle those. When we are tempted to be triggered by whatever life triggers us with, there's always a choice of how we proceed forward, and we can choose the path of peace or go darker into the despair and the fear. So life is filled with opportunities for healing. Well, so I much to ponder, something to ponder, and I like that word. And I was thinking, wow, I was thinking about this week and the ups and the downs of it, and just saying that right now in the world, I'm engaged pretty heavily with a lot of groups and the ministry and prayer ministry and people who are dealing with good things and challenging things. And I'm always thinking about how people, I'm always admiring and wondering how people navigate through these situations, through these challenges, and how they find peace and gain strength, not only let it suck them up, but gain strength from the challenges of life. So I looked up the word ponder, and I like this definition: thinking about something carefully, especially before making or a decision or reaching a conclusion. And that is exactly, pondering is exactly the same thing as what I would call the pause. And when we talk about the pause spiritually, okay, it really means that, we're always being, life happens. Things are continually coming at us, to us. And what tends to be our response to life is our unconscious, subconscious programs. Okay, so we're just, all of a sudden we react rather, and usually it's out of an old program, which is false or not useful or helpful. And then all of a sudden we react in fear or anger or something from the past, and we're just perpetuating the situation and making it maybe more intense or worse. So the pause is really about us, taking that moment, again, putting your hands over your heart, taking that deep breath, and just taking the pause and tap into your heart and respond from a new place, from a higher perspective. And when you do that, you're beginning to take your power back. You're not being impacted by the effects of the world, but rather strengthened by the power of the heart. And I really find that people who are really great leaders, and I'm not talking about successful, maybe yes, maybe no, but people, to me, a great person or a leader is someone who can navigate through life and be happy and find joy and be peaceful and be giving and kind and compassionate and stay present. And I'm always wondering, because this is what I study and what I teach, and I think I do a good job a lot of the time, but sometimes I forget that pause and forget to ponder. And so it really asks us to take into consideration, be careful before we make a decision or before we respond to a situation. So pondering, you see the guy there on his knee and elbow on his knee, thinking about things. Well, the pause, the ponder. I would also invite you to something that's really so, I think people are becoming more aware of it now, but it's certainly something we can all do a better job of. And that's, I've spoken about this at length over recent past, and that is critical thinking. And critical thinking means that I'm not going to let the media or the news or other people's opinions be necessarily what I take as gospel. I'm going to take the time to think about this, to go into my heart, to look at different perspectives, all sides of a situation, before automatically just putting my, skis in the snow and saying, this is it, right? So I think critical thinking is so necessary, because we're just so programmed to let other people, whose thoughts are thinking us. That was a talk I did a while ago. Learn to ponder, to do research for yourself, find your own answers. Don't necessarily give your power to one media station over the other or one political party over the other. I can tell you through my critical thinking, I am apolitical and I see value and meaning in all sides. And I actually understand, can't say I agree, but I can understand where people come from more because I don't make assumptions anymore and just say, if I watch this channel, then I'm going to be programmed to think this way. Or if I watch this one, I'm going to go this way. I mean, that is not a lot of power there, but I do think that we do have another way that we can respond. So ponder, reflect, pause, think critically. I think you're getting my point, I hope. So today is also, we've talked about some of the highs, the Marshall victory, my birthday. We've talked about the ordination, things that are really uplifting and good. Well, there's two incidents this week that maybe have been sad for us. And today is the anniversary of 9/11. Hard to believe 21 years ago. I still remember exactly, I was in Florida and exactly when that happened and when it popped up on the news and what that was, the sadness and the grief that came from that. But so I also sort of like the Marshall story, you know, the plane crash, which was actually a means for rising from the ashes and planting seeds of goodness and growth. This 9/11 has also afforded us many opportunities for healing and growth. Yes, there's sadness, but how can we use this as a means for healing as well? So all of our love and support goes out to everybody, our nation, and everybody who's been impacted by that tragedy and all tragedies and all sadness, and that they find peace and that they feel our support at this time and always. And of course, we can't, where my talk is going, because I am a fan of the Queen. And although I think all of us who did appreciate who she was and what she stood for and how she lived her life, you know, at 96, that is a darn good run and a life well lived. But I think still, there's a part of us that just expected her to go on forever. So I think many of us, and especially her country, are definitely feeling the void, the grief, and the loss of this tremendous figure and what she stood for and how she lived her life. And, you know, I'm sure that there's things that could be argued that maybe wouldn't be so positive about her, even though I can't seem to find much. I think she lived her life pretty impeccably. But, you know, again, there's other people who have their thoughts, and I do honor all beliefs and paths and people to have their feelings. But I do want to focus on really how she lived her life and how she used gave her energy in selfless service for basically her entire life. She was groomed at a very young age to be the queen. And I don't think she was expecting it quite so early at age 26, but she carried to that for, as we know, her 70-year Jubilee was this year. And that was a remarkable celebration as well. And I'm so happy that she was able to make it to that. And so I'm going to just share some of her wisdom. I think she was actually a very funny person. You know, they're putting a lot of her humor on TV. I loved, you know, when she was with the James Bond for the start of the Olympics there in 2012 in London, and how they walk in and she jumps from, well, they showed her jumping from a helicopter. Anyway, parachuting. And she just had a good sense of humor, you know, and with the Paddington Bear and the the little skit she did before her Jubilee, and she had her sandwich in her purse, and now we know what was actually in her purse all these years. And so humor, just that little subtle, gentle humor that was always there if you were able to see it, and also her wisdom and her strength. And really what I admire so much as well is her ability to her stability. And she definitely went through the midst of wars and engaged in World War II, and actually helping, as you know, serving in a military capacity. And she's been through many deaths, much sadness, loss of her husband and friends and family over the years. And of course, maybe her kids have been kids and not necessarily walked that straight line that she would have loved for them to have walked. I mean, just situations like every other family has. But somehow, some way, she's always persevered and managed to stay strong and at peace. And the more I looked into who she was and how she lived, she did have a huge amount of faith. She was very faithful to her church, to the teachings of Jesus, and I think that's what really carried her through all of these challenges through her reign. So one thing I really like about her too is she always, I heard someone say this, she kept her mouth shut. I think we could all, I got to work on that one. I am way better than I used to be, but keep your mouth shut, worked hard always, and did what was best for the people. And, you know, when I noticed she kept her mouth shut, you know, I saw an interview this week there. Someone was saying that they had asked Donald Trump, or Donald Trump had asked her, who's your favorite president? You know, you can just see him doing this, right? Oh, come on, tell me. She says, I like them all. And that was her answer. He tried to pry it out of her. And same thing with her prime ministers. Even if she had her own opinions, she was going to keep her mouth shut and keep those to herself. She was wonderful at staying neutral, working hard, and doing what was best for the people. She was all encompassing. She was very aware of her position and her power, and she navigated through it beautifully. One thing I love about her, and it's so cute when you see her, horses were, I think, her outlet. And she had, I think they said she had 1,800 victories of the horses she owned over her reign. And so she loved horses, and you could see when they showed her at the races of how excited she would get. And it was great to see that she had that outlet to express her joy in such a great way. She also loved her corgis, they were always with her en masse, right? They were just all traipsing around her. And I found out just this morning, she took her favorite corgi with her on her honeymoon. So she's had corgis all of her life. And of course, she also had dogs. And of course, we're Doxy people, Dachshunds, and she had Dachshunds and Corgi Dachshund mix. So she was an animal lover, to say the least. And they said that her outlet was her dogs. You know, they brought her such peace and comfort and joy, and the horses. So anyone who loves animals like that is good in my book by all means. Also heard her described, and I think this is so appropriate, and what a title to aspire to, and that is Comforter in Chief. So when the challenges and the turmoils, be it the war or be it the COVID experience or 9/11, she was always there to bring that grandmotherly sense of stability and peace and comfort, and most helpful, the message of hope that there is this too shall pass. So Comforter in Chief. So I think you're understanding that there is a lot to appreciate and love about this woman and how she lived her life. And I do pray that King Charles is able to continue his reign, maybe with his own spin of who he is, but also with the integrity and the heart that she carried. And that's the vision I choose to hold for him. Little quotes that she would say. It's worth remembering that it's often the small steps, not the giant leaps, that bring about the most lasting change. And I think that that's so important. It's like, as long as you're moving in the right direction, it doesn't matter if the steps are small. And actually, I would go on to say that the smaller steps we're able to ground more strongly in our journey. So we don't have to race to the finish line, but just be slow and steady. And wasn't that the message of the hare and the tortoise? And we all know who ended up winning that race. And it wasn't the one suspected. It was the slow, steady tortoise who won the race. Well, it's the small steps. So just one step at a time, and do the best you can. And if you make a step back, just make another step forward. That's all you have to do. And I love this. It's always been easy to hate and destroy. To build and cherish is much more difficult. And I find that is a quality that doesn't serve anybody, to hate and destroy. And I'll add another thought, and that's to divide. But really, I think that's, as I talk about it from a metaphorical perspective, in this dream or in this illusion, that what is the ego or the devil's purpose but to edge God out, edge God out, to keep us divided, keep us separate, keep us asleep, keep us engaged in war and conflict and the need to be right, and to destroy others. And yet, as she says here, to build and cherish is much more difficult. And yet it's really what we're here to do, is to bridge the gap of separation, to bring healing where there's sickness, to bring light in the darkness. And it's not an easy path, because sadly, we're pretty bombarded with reasons to keep us pitted against each other and angry and separate. But it's the stronger path. And I love what the Course in Miracles says: in our defenselessness, our safety lies. Our power is the power of love is so much more powerful than the perceived power of fear. So rather than maybe choosing to destroy or to attack or defend, let's build on healing and unifying. And she did that beautifully. You never saw her take a stand against anything. It was always just be in that presence of power. And she says, I cannot lead you into battle. I do not give you laws or administer justice, but I can do something else. I can give you my heart and my devotion to these old islands and to the peoples of our brotherhoods of all nations. And she had no legal standing in a sense. So she was not there to administer laws, but just to give from her heart. And that was a speech she made when she was a young woman. And she abided by that statement through her entire reign. And she talks about the wartime, the wartime generation. And she said, that was my generation, and it was resilient. And I think that the book, was it Brokaw? I think he wrote it, The Greatest Generation. And our father, he served in World War II in the Battle of the Bulge. And I think that that generation, how they went to war and how they came back and built a beautiful life for themselves and a strong foundation for our country, that was in many ways, I do agree it was the greatest generation. And I'd love to see us sort of blend some of our good things we brought in with some of those attributes and qualities as well. I just popped into this one, and I think this is so true, and maybe you all can relate. Let us not take ourselves too seriously. None of us has a monopoly on wisdom. So in other words, I think sometimes we think we're the end all be all. And if anybody could have thought that they were that, probably she could have. But I think she too even realized that she didn't have a monopoly on wisdom. And so it's, I just, there's so many things I could continue to share. And I want to say, this one's so beautiful too. Often a child's helplessness and vulnerability brings out the best in us. And I would say that that's true when we see, I won't even say a child, when we see someone who's vulnerable and suffering, it does tend to bring out the best in us. And I do remember probably the most traumatic, tragic event for our country and our world in my lifetime was 9/11, and to see the tragedy and the triumph over tragedy and the people helping. It was, I saw an interview and the fellow was saying he was there, and he said it was like, you did not see any division. It wasn't about politics, about race, creed, any sexual orientation. It wasn't about any of that. It was about souls helping souls. People were just there to serve. And I think to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if we could live like that without having to have a tragedy to invoke that sense of service in what we're doing? And I would say that this, of course, she was a very spiritual woman. Religion and culture are much in the news these days, usually as sources of difference and conflict rather than bringing people together. But the irony is that every religion has something to say about tolerance and respecting others. And ain't that true? You know, you see how even religion, which has been brought to us as a gift from our Creator in with many different faces, based on culture and based on history and many facets. And yet there are, many, sadly, that think if you don't believe this way, then, well, sorry, you don't have much of a chance beyond this world. And it's interesting, but it's such a deep program. And yet, as she says, all religions have teachings of tolerance and respecting others. And through that comes through forgiveness and compassion and understanding and seeking to find that which unifies us, not divides us. And to me, that's sort of how I landed with my spiritual path and what I teach and believe, is because I do believe that all spiritual, an ominist believes that there's truth in all religions. And I do believe that. And I believe that many of these great spiritual teachings, religious teachings, have been misrepresented, misunderstood, used to divide us, sadly, but it's true. And the programs are deep and often, and I'm not here to criticize, because I know many people that are so devout to their faith and genuinely believe that that's true, and they believe that in their hearts, and they won't vary from that. So I get it. And I'm not here to condemn or criticize, but I do also know that that God is good, and that we all have that opportunity to flip that switch, to plug into the source of love or fear, unity or division. And it comes with many different faces. And the Course in Miracles says, although a universal theology is impossible, a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. So what are we all seeking? Well, we're all seeking love. We're really here to remember who we are, which is we are the light of the world. We are all here to wake up to the joy of being alive, of being created in the likeness and image of love of our Creator. That's all we are. That's who everybody is. And so we're living this dream, playing these stupid roles to teach each other that eventually, nope, not going to bite that bait anymore. I'm going to choose love. And eventually, every time I choose to live from a higher perspective, the good news is everybody is lifted with me. So we are powerful beyond our imagining. So let's just worry about ourselves at this point, and there's a cute dachshund. I don't know if you ever watch any of this, but Moon Pie Starbucks, and these doxies are hilarious. And this one dachshund said, his mom asked him a question about something. It's like, you worry about yourself. And the dachshund didn't like to be caught. Well, I kind of look at it that way, get your nose out of other people's business. Just worry about yourself. And just live and let live, and bless everybody, and know that all is truly in divine order. And that's their journey, not yours. And the greatest gift we can bring is to heal ourselves, heal our hearts, and to see them in their divinity as well. So, we may hold different points of view, but in times of stress and difficulty it is in those times that we most need to remember we have much more in common than there is dividing us. Again, follow up to the statement I just shared. Perhaps we make too much of what is wrong and too little of what is right. The trouble is with gloom that it feeds upon itself and causes more depression. So if we're into our gloom and doom and our problems, and we feed on that, the more we feed the monster. It's the Native American teaching. Which wolf are we feeding? The wolf of fear and gloom and doom, or the wolf of transformation and healing and hope? So we have to be vigilant for what wolf we're feeding. We have to choose that which uplifts us and heals us and brings light into the darkness, and to transform fear into love and all of those good things. And one thing that I said earlier, I went to this ordination yesterday, and this Reverend Lisa has really jazzed up about, her ministry is going to be based among lots of things. She's done a lot of work, but she's also interested in positive psychology, which is a movement. And she says that it's actually, instead of going to very much what we talk about here every week, rather than engaging in the problems, focus on what is good, what is positive, and build on that. So the more we can, that's really, again, back in mind training, that's what it's all about. Shifting from the fear to the love, the darkness to the light. And so that, again, we've been doing in our Course in Miracles class on Fridays, all are welcome, 11 o'clock. We're talking about psychotherapy in the perspective of the Course in Miracles. Same thing. We have to unplug from the matrix of the fear and plug into the light, the possibility, feed that which is positive and good. That's, to me, how, if anybody was living by the psychology of positivity, it was our queen, not our queen, everybody's queen. She was the queen. So it's very much something you may want to consider and look into, the positive psychology. History teaches us we need saving from ourselves, from our recklessness or our greed. God sent into the world neither a philosopher or a general, but a savior with the power to forgive. So I think that is so powerful. We need to save ourselves from our recklessness and our greed and our crappy programming. And I think the point that she said, that God did not send into the world a philosopher or a general, but a Savior whose power came through his ability to forgive. And, Jesus is one of many ascended masters, self-realized beings who has walked the earth. And definitely one of my top ones that I choose to follow and have great faith in and admiration. And his power came not through being combative, argumentative, through war, through attack, through defense, but rather through his forgiveness. And he was able to just be in the world, not of the world. And I look at the Queen and I think that she followed that very well. She was able to go inside, to ponder, to contemplate, and to really come from that place of neutrality and peace where that was the ability to forgive and not to get emotionally. I think she had great emotional intelligence, which is something that's been kind of a buzz for the past 20 years or so. We used to look at people's IQs and say that, oh, if you have a high IQ, then you're going to be successful. But not necessarily. A lot of people who have high IQs are maybe not that emotionally intelligent. And they go on to say that people who have a high EQ and emotional quotient, intelligence quotient, which means those who are able to adapt to change easily and maintain their emotions in a stable way, those are the people who succeed. And I'm not, again, as I said in the beginning here today, it's not about success and owning big companies, or being the Queen of England, possibly, but just living your day-to-day life. Emotional balance is huge and is our greatest tool for survival. So we have to build on that. And forgiveness is power. Love is power. All of the rest of this, is just a game we're playing to pit ourselves against each other, and just keeps us stuck in the battleground. We need to rise above the battleground. So I'm going to wind down. I've actually gone on much longer than I intended today, but just with two more Queen Elizabeth quotes as a tribute to her today, something to ponder. And she says, "Each day is a new beginning. I know the only way to live my life is to try to do what is right, to take the long view, to give my best in all that the day brings, and to put my trust in God." Well, there's her tool for her formula for living well. And this was a statement she made just 2 years ago in April of 2020, when the COVID crisis came into the world, and people were in terror over that and fearful. And again, she was the presence of strength and compassion. And she was able to make a strong statement there of hope. And she says, "While we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again, and we will all meet again." And I look at that at lots of different levels. Yes, once COVID is over, we were able to meet again, be with our family and our friends again. And yes, ultimately, when we all wake up from this crazy dream and go back to our eternal home, we will all celebrate with our friends, family, and our pets, and everything and everyone that we've cared for on this journey. So thank you all for tuning in. And as always, appreciate your sharing this if you feel led to. And if you feel moved to join me for any of the programs or learn more about the ministry, everything's archived. You can go to my website, charlottemcginnis.com, and you can even make a donation to offset some of the cost if you feel led to do so, or not. It's all good. Okay, thanks everybody. And just Ascension 22 next Sunday, right after this. Love for you to join us. It's going to be great. Okay, namaste, everybody. Thank you.